Revenge films.
I gave birth to a baby girl 6 months ago. I've been married for 3 years. I wanted to have a baby sooner, but in my work situation, it was difficult for me to take maternity leave and parental leave because of the shortage of staff. Some might say it's not my problem, but I owed this company that hired me in a bad job market, and I was having a hard time finding a job. Also, the people working there were nice, like family, and I couldn't really prioritize what I wanted. But finally, they found somebody to take over my position during my leave, so I was ready to get pregnant. If my job was a sit-down kind, I could have worked around, but my work required travels and visiting companies, and I needed to wait for the right moment. Once the work situation was organized, I got pregnant soon. My boss was amazed with it because it happened very fast. My husband, Jet, was happy too, and he took good care of me during my pregnancy. From there, the childbirth went smoothly, and I finally became a mother. A few months later, people at work visited us to see my baby. My boss told me not to worry about work, but to just focus on childcare. One day, Jet called me from work. He rarely called from work during the day, so I was a little worried. When I answered, he was unusually upset.
I know childcare is hard, but why are you taking the baby to my mom's place every day?
What? What is he talking about? I listened to his story anyway, which was bizarre.
Of course she loves her grandchild, but every day is too much, don't you think?
Hang on a second, I have no clue what you're talking about. I've never asked your mother to watch my baby, and she's right here now. Hold on, I'll turn the camera on. Then I showed him my baby on the phone. She's moving her arms and legs happily in her crib. Jet was in disbelief and said, "What the heck is going on?" That was exactly what I'm saying. He actually thought it a little strange when he heard about this from his mother because he knew I loved my baby like the apple of my eye. But it didn't make sense that his mother lied to him. He said sorry to me and that he was going to find out what's been happening. But it was strange. She might have been lied to by somebody, so I told him that I was coming over to my in-laws' house. He agreed, and I went over with my baby. Once I was inside the house, I heard a baby's cry and my mother-in-law, Barbara, trying to stop it from crying. So it was true. When she saw me holding my baby in my arms, she was shocked. "What's going on?" And she looked at the two babies side by side. I told her what Jet had told me, and as she could see, I had never asked her to watch my baby. Barbara visited us once when the baby was born, but babies grow fast, and she believed it was her grandchild when she saw the other baby. Another thing was about Seth, who is the older brother of Jet. I asked where she got the idea that I asked her to watch my baby, and she mentioned Seth. Seth lived near his mother and told her that I brought my baby to his place every morning and left her there all day, so he wanted her to watch. She thought I was having postpartum depression and she could help a little bit, but it became a daily thing, so she talked to Jet about it. I was shocked to hear the story, but I told her that I'm very happy to take care of my baby every day and I enjoy it, and there was no way that I would just bring my baby somewhere and leave her there all day. After she heard me, she apologized profusely. From then on, it was fast. She called Jet to explain and clear the air, then she called Seth. Before Seth got here, she also called up Jet, Seth's wife Miranda, and they were also gathered. To prevent Seth from running away, she didn't tell him in detail, and he had no idea everybody was here. So when he came into the room, he turned pale to see all of us in the room. "Explain to us all, whose child have I been watching all this time?" When Barbara interrogated him, Seth came clean. Seth was having an affair and his mistress got pregnant and gave birth to a child. The mistress demanded that he be responsible and marry her when they were having an affair. Seth didn't do anything about it, and one day his mistress said she couldn't raise the child alone and asked him to watch the baby and left it at his. Worrying about Miranda finding out about it, also the baby was around the same age as my baby's age, he brought them to Barbara saying that it was my baby while planning the next step. But his action was full of holes. If one person gets suspicious, the whole thing would be revealed easily. Jet and I were astonished at his clumsy actions, and the in-laws were all furious. Miranda was especially shocked. They didn't even have their child yet. Yet Seth not only had an affair, but also had a child elsewhere? She went insane, but who could blame her? Seth's father was enraged and punched him in the face. It was such chaos. Seth called up his mistress and she showed up later on. By that time, Jet and I were excused to go home, having a baby with us and all. After that, Miranda filed for divorce. Seth's mistress was happy with their divorce, but Seth had no intention of being with her. He begged Miranda to take him back, and things were a mess. Miranda didn't change her mind, so Seth and the mistress were in debt for a large amount of compensation. Barbara and her husband were disappointed in Seth and told him not to come near their house again. Seth and the mistress didn't become together. Seth moved into an old apartment, worked and paid the debt, which included the legal fine to us. I was okay when the misunderstanding was cleared up, but Jet was hurt by his wife and child being used in the scheme and asked for damages. Seth and Miranda's child was to be raised by Miranda and her parents. Seth's parents accepted that, but it was complicated because the child was also their grandchild. Barbara apologized to me again for blaming me, but she watched the child because she thought that it was my baby, and above all, it was good this strange incident was resolved. Regarding Seth, since Miranda used to work for the same company as Seth, the rumor spread fast and, being isolated at work, he voluntarily resigned. He now works at a construction site and gas station, but he didn't get any sympathy from anyone.
My name is Thomas. I married my wife, Sammy, and I built my own house. We asked an architect to design our very own house. We spent a whole year as a couple talking about our dream house, and we had many discussions with the real estate agent as well. Finally, we had our house built with a spacious kitchen and a nice garden where we can raise our pet dog. When my wife saw our white house for the first time,
It looks white and beautiful without any stains, just like a wedding dress.
she laughed happily. I bet she used a wedding dress as an example because she still feels like a newlywed. It had just been about a year since we got married. I couldn't help but smile and answer, "It's like a dream come true being able to live in a house like this." But unfortunately, I wasn't able to spend much time at this house. The reason was because my company suddenly decided that I had to go on a long business trip abroad. I don't mind going alone. After dinner, I told my wife, "You seem to like this house a lot. You can stay here and wait for me."
No, I will follow you. I don't want us to separate.
Okay. It's a long business trip, but no longer than 3 months. We don't have kids yet. Do you want to go together?
Yes.
I decided to take my wife with me on my business trip abroad. I still didn't feel like I finally built my own house. It's only been half a year since we moved in. The things that we rarely used were still left in cardboard boxes waiting to be unpacked. It was unfortunate, but we decided to ask a friend to take care of our house while we were away. But because my business trip was so sudden, we struggled to find the right person. So we had no other choice but to give up. It was my first time going on a long business trip abroad, so we were very busy preparing and handing over my projects to my colleagues. So we decided not to stop our electricity and water supply. We thought it would be too much work to go through the procedure all over again after we came back. And we had a contract in which the company wouldn't charge us any money if we didn't use any electricity, so there was no use in actually stopping it. As we faced several problems abroad, I had to stay there for twice as long as we initially planned. But finally, my business trip abroad was over. My wife and I were walking home with souvenirs in hand.
We have to go greet our neighbors again.
My wife laughed at her own joke. I laughed too. We haven't been living in our house at all, but we keep on having to introduce ourselves to our neighbors.
I hope they like our souvenirs.
As we talked happily, we turned the corner. We were supposed to see our house right in front of us now. Huh? Where's our house? I blinked over and over again, feeling confused. My wife was panicking as well.
Huh? Well, that's weird. How come our house is gone? Maybe we turned at the wrong corner.
We said so, but we couldn't take our eyes off the dirty house right in front of us. The shape of the house was very similar. No, it was identical. But the white walls had all been stained gray. A pile of garbage bags were placed in the small garden where we were planning to raise our dog. The garbage was attracting flies. The odor was even reaching us. I bet the stains on the walls were a result of someone throwing garbage onto them. We looked around over and over again. We tried to recall our memory. This place must be it.
Yeah, looks like it.
We were in shock, but when we approached our stained house, we discovered something more shocking. Huh? Why are the lights on? Light was shining through the curtains. I could also see shadows inside. In the parking lot, we saw a small car we've never seen before parked there. We arrived at the entrance, so we decided to ring the doorbell. The bell rang, and shortly after, the door opened.
Yes?
A middle-aged woman with a frustrated expression appeared. I had never seen her before.
Who are you?
Who are you? This is our house.
Oh, you're the owner.
When the woman said that in a loud voice, a middle-aged man appeared from the back. What? What do you want? Hey, this is our house. Why are you trespassing in our house? Oh, so you guys built this house? Thanks, man. Hey, are those souvenirs? Gotcha! He suddenly took the bag of souvenirs from us. Huh? You guys were looking for people who would take care of this house while you were away, right? I heard about it around a year ago. We don't know each other, so I thought it might be hard for you to approach us, so we decided to just move in here. He unwrapped the snacks we got as souvenirs and started eating them one after another. You know what? I was just getting hungry. He wasn't making any sense. It looked like this middle-aged couple was married and were living in our house without our permission. I'm the owner of this house. If you went in without our permission, that's called trespassing. The two of them immediately argued back. It's not, right?
Yes, it's not. They say houses age quickly when there are no people living in them, so we were living here for you. We've been living here for months now, so basically this is our house now. You should go ask the neighbors. They'll all say that this is our house.
My parents are planning to move in with us starting tomorrow. Luckily, we have more than enough room, so the house is big enough to accommodate 4 people. I was too shocked to speak. Huh? Parents moving in with you? What are you saying? My wife pulled my sleeve. When I turned to her, she was shaking her head. I guess she wanted to tell me that there was no use talking to people like them, so we headed to the police station. We asked for the police's help. When we came back from a long business trip, it turns out that an unknown couple stole our house. The police officer looked confused. Huh? They stole your house? Yes, they stole our house. I bet something like this never happened before. I myself was confused as well. When I explained in detail, the officer finally understood what was going on. I proved my identity using my ID cards. Then we got into a police car and headed to our house. The officers were taking photos of our house and the car that I assumed to be owned by the couple. The couple was watching from between the curtains, and they tried to make a run for it from the back door. The officers were professionals, so they easily caught them. They were caught trespassing red-handed. The police called us over. "Can you check the inside?" We were at a loss for words out of shock when we saw what it was like inside. We knew that they had a lot of garbage on the outside, but the hallways and rooms were also filled with garbage. Of course, cockroaches were crawling around and flies were all over the place. Not only did it look dirty, but it also looked old and worn out. This is our dream home?
No way.
It was like those abandoned houses that appear in horror movies. To be honest, this was too scary. It made me nauseous looking around the house. It was a shining, brand new house just before we left for my business trip. Now it's in a horrible state, too horrible for us to even walk with our shoes off. Next to the officers who were taking pictures of the house, we were standing powerlessly out of shock. My wife and I stayed at a motel. Our house was not in a state to stay in. The next day, when we asked the police about how the interrogation was going, the couple seemed to be telling them the same thing they said to us. "We were taking care of the house while they were away on their business trip abroad. They should thank us, not call the police on us. It's wrong for us to get arrested." They were making a fuss in the end, but I had checked all over our house and found that some of the furniture and DVDs were gone. I also checked that the bathroom window was broken, which was probably the place they broke into our house from. Things were all in place before I left for my business trip. As a result of showing them all the evidence, the couple finally admitted their crimes. They even revealed that they sold some of the furniture and DVDs to make money. This incident was taken in as a criminal case, and I bet the couples would be punished under the law. I even hired a lawyer to make them pay $30,000 as compensation. The parents of the couple had common sense, so they got furious, saying, "You stupid son and wife!" They used all their connections and promised us that they'll make them work at some construction site. Once the couple left jail with probation, thanks to the hard work they were assigned to, it looks like they changed for the better a bit. They came to apologize and apologized on their knees. Now they work at a construction site where they build houses to pay for the compensation fees.
My name is Nancy. I'm a 25-year-old office worker who just got married with my husband, Chris, and I'm about to have my wedding. My husband is 30, 5 years older than me, and I was attracted to his leadership because I had a shy and quiet personality. My husband works at distribution, and he was working at my client's company, and I got to know him when he was visiting, and he started hitting on me, so we soon started dating. To be honest, I didn't like how pushy he was at first, but after going out to eat with him when I couldn't say no, we grew close. He proposed to me after we dated for a year. My husband was from the countryside, so he was excited to see his friends at the wedding. It was my first time meeting his friends, so I was nervous on the day of the wedding. My sister, who was the CEO of a large distribution company, was also going to be there. It's been 3 years since I met my sister, who was always busy, so I was a bit nervous. But because we were close sisters, I was also excited. When I was waiting in the back room feeling nervous, I heard a knock on the door. When my husband opened the door, a man with brown hair appeared.
"Sean, long time no see!"
My husband said.
"Hey!"
And then the man replied with a smile. He was my husband's childhood friend, Sean, and my husband told me he was pretty naughty in the past. I heard that he stayed in his hometown and took over his family business, and he came here just for our wedding. When I greeted him nervously,
"You're Chris's wife? Hey, she looks more boring than Eileen. Eileen and you were a better match."
he said to us. Aline was my husband's ex back in their hometown, and my husband looked kind of proud when he said that. After that, Sean kept on saying,
You remember your ex? What was her name? She worked as a hairstylist?
And he boldly kept on talking about his ex in front of me. My husband said, Hey, stop talking about this stuff in front of my wife. But he was laughing and having fun for some reason, and it looked like he didn't actually want him to stop. When Sean finally left the room, my husband said to me as he laughed,
He's always been a teaser. He's funny, right?
But there was no way I could laugh. I was still feeling a bit frustrated when the wedding started, and it was time for the bouquet toss, which I was the most nervous about. My single friends were all excited, and when I was about to throw my bouquet while everyone stared, I heard a loud bang, and at the same time, I felt a sharp pain in my forearms. I didn't know what happened, but I felt a pain in my forearms as I felt very scared. The guests were running towards me, and they were yelling for some ice. When I took a closer look, I found a burn and a cut on my arm, and my wedding dress had turned bright red with blood. When I looked up, Sean was smiling as he said,
Oops, sorry.
And he was holding a couple of skyrockets. I was taken to the hospital by an ambulance, and I had to get some stitches on my arm. My burn hurt so bad that I had to constantly take painkillers as I lied on the bed. Then my husband came into the living room and said something unbelievable.
Sean's great. He wanted to hype things up, and he launched a skyrocket towards the bride. He was always a naughty lad.
He said as he laughed foolishly. I couldn't help but say, Huh? What are you saying? Then my husband continued.
Wow, good thing it didn't hurt your face or something. I'm gonna go drinking with Sean for the after party now.
He was about to leave the room. Wait a minute. My wedding was ruined and I ended up getting injured so badly, but you're going to an after party? When I said so, he replied,
You're overreacting. Oh, yeah, you've always had a serious personality. I bet you don't get along with our playful personality.
He seemed unaware of what he did at all. He wasn't even worried about my injury, and he left with quick steps. When I was crying in the bed alone out of humiliation, my sister came in. With a very irritated expression, she said, Who the hell is he? She saw my injury, and she got madder. When I told her what my husband told me in tears, she tried to persuade me. You should get a divorce right now. But I just got married, so if I get a divorce now, my parents would get worried too. So I struggled to make a decision right away. Then my sister called my parents and parents-in-law who were still at the wedding venue. My parents were so mad, and they demanded that I call my husband right here. But his parents kept on apologizing, saying they couldn't get a hold of their son. So I simply said, Your son went to attend an after party. At that moment, my dad exploded in anger. When my dad demanded that I call him right away, my sister used my phone and sent a message. Come to the hospital right now. If not, we're gonna sue your friend. Shortly after, my husband reluctantly came into the room, and when he saw my parents and parents-in-law, he got surprised, saying,
Hey, I didn't know this.
When he said, You're gonna pay for my hospital bills, my husband was still acting foolish.
Don't get mad just because we launched a skyrocket and you got a burn. He was joking, so just forgive Sean.
He said to me. So I immediately replied, Nope, I'm getting a divorce. When he heard me mention the word divorce, he started to panic.
Huh? Why?
But he quickly regained his calm.
You're definitely gonna regret it if you get a divorce just because of this.
Then my sister said in a calm voice, You're the one who's gonna regret it. The guests have videos of your friend launching skyrockets and you laughing at what he did.
So what?
My husband asked her, and she replied coldly, I just posted them on social media and also sent the videos to your boss.
You have to be kidding! What are you doing?
When my husband said that, my sister revealed a truth he never knew. The large distribution company my sister owned does some business with the company my husband worked at, so she knew the CEO and told him everything about what happened and filed a complaint saying, You're not educating your employees enough. When my sister demanded that she'll stop doing business with the company unless they fire him, the CEO replied by saying that they'll fire him right away. After my husband heard about that,
I'm so sorry. Please don't fire me.
Like that, he started begging, changing his attitude all of a sudden. My sister yelled, "Just go and get the divorce papers," and tried to kick him out of the room. My dad was getting angrier.
"We're gonna give back all the money we received as celebration to the guests, so you better pay for all the wedding fees. We'll make your friend pay for the hospital bills and make you pay for compensation,"
he yelled, and then his parents said, "We're very sorry," and bowed their heads towards us over and over. After that, my husband was fired, and to pay all the wedding fees, he had to go into a lot of debt. After my sister leaked all of his information to the companies in the same industry, he struggled to find a job in the field and became jobless. His parents and relatives cut ties with him, and no one knows where he is now. I sued Sean for damages and asked him to pay compensation as well as my hospital bills. But until the last minute, he didn't show any signs of regret, saying,
"I just did it to hype up the wedding."
But because the videos were spread all over social media, all his friends and relatives got to know about his problematic actions at the wedding. He lives in a small neighborhood, so when his neighbors started giving him cold stares, his family kicked him out, and he ended up having to wander the streets. I honestly think it's all his fault, so no one offered him help, and he had to live an isolated life. On the other hand, I started admiring my sister's firm and brave personality, and I began working hard at her company as one of her employees. I hope I can change my weak self and become stronger like my sister, who I can always depend on. The next time I'm going to get married, I will never just go with the flow again. And I hope to be happy with someone I love from the bottom of my heart. In order to do so, I have to learn to stand up for myself first before falling in love with anyone else. I hope I wouldn't have to make my family worried about me again, and I promised I'd become a more independent woman in the future. One day, my friend from college, Bishy, asked me out saying she wanted my advice, so we met up. We weren't that close, and we wouldn't really hang out with just the two of us, but we would talk once in a while at college, so I decided to hear her out. "Hey, please, can you use your dad's connection and let me get a job somewhere?" "Huh? You want a job?" Looks like Bishy was starting to panic because she couldn't find a job, while everyone around her had already found a job to do after graduation, so she came to ask for my help. The reason she approached me was because my dad was a CEO and had several companies he managed. My dad was the CEO of a large corporation, but I guess she assumed that it would be easy for her to get a job at one of his smaller companies. But getting a job is never that easy. She can't get a job just because I talked to my dad, so I politely refused. But Bishy kept on following me around every day. "Hey, please! I'm begging you! We're friends, right?" While Bishy followed me around, her friends somehow started following me too, saying they wanted a job using my dad's connections. I refused every time they asked, but they would follow me around from the morning as soon as they saw me. And to my close friends, she said, "Hey, Millie is my bestie. Don't go near her." She threatened my friends, and although I don't remember ever becoming her bestie, I knew my friends would also be dragged into this mess at this point. "Okay, I'll try to ask him, but I can't promise you anything." "Yes, now I found a job. I don't have to be persistent anymore." As she said so, despite following me around for so long, she left me alone, taking all of her friends with her. When I asked my friends, he said he'll introduce her to the staff working at one of his smaller companies. I would get in touch with the staff first, and then I'll arrange Bishy and the staff to meet on another day. So I told Bishy that I wanted her to meet up with the staff. Then she said, "Huh? Oh, that's so tiring. We're gonna meet at our office one day anyways," she argued. But I insisted because it was an important day for her. On the day, I had already told Bishy the time of our meeting, so I was waiting at the meeting place with the staff in charge. But she didn't show up, although we waited for an extra 15 minutes, so I called her. She answered the phone very quick, but it seemed like she was having some fun, and I heard people partying around her. "Hey, did you forget our appointment today? I told you to come at 7. "Oops, I forgot. Sorry." She didn't sound sorry at all. She was acting as if she didn't show up on purpose, and it pissed me off. "You should come here right away. He's busy with his own work, but he made some time just for you." "Huh? I can't. I just found a job, so we're partying to celebrate. I can go if it's on another day, so can you cancel our appointment for today?" Because Bishy was annoying, I begged my dad to help, and I finally had the staff from HR make time for us. Knowing how rude she was being, I felt very apologetic. Normally, this is something that shouldn't happen. Normally, people would find a job after going to a proper job interview. But I had a staff from the HR come to our appointment just because I was the CEO's daughter, so her behavior towards the staff was unacceptable. Okay, I'll cancel our appointment and pretend like the job interview never happened. Huh? What? Job interview? What job interview? I thought I'm already getting a job. Bishy was celebrating that she got a job, but I never said that she'd be accepted in the company. Just because I was the CEO's daughter, they were positively considering to give her the job, but they still didn't know what kind of person she was, so they wanted to see her personality while we dined together. Despite arranging an appointment beforehand, she canceled just before the appointment, and there was no way she could be trusted. When I told her that, although she was drunk, she suddenly started making a fuss. I didn't know that! You told your dad about it, so I should just get the job! Just because you were my friend, you don't have to go through the usual job interview. You just had to do a brief meeting with the people from the company as we dined together. But there's no way they'll hire a person who cancels just before the appointment like you. Okay then, wait there, I'm going! Bishy said, but the staff said he had enough and this was unacceptable. I completely understood, so I apologized to the staff politely and I had him leave. Then I called my dad and told him what happened, and when I apologized, he said that despite that it was unacceptable behavior, he forgave me, saying I shouldn't worry too much. Despite all the complaints, she was desperate for a job, so I thought she'd show up for this, but whoever thought she'd break the promise? Then Bishy arrived at where we were, and she asked where the staff was. So when I answered that he already went home, she started getting mad, her face bright red. She was complaining about how come he was gone, although she took the effort to come here. But it was clear that Bishy was to be blamed. So I told her that I'd never get involved with her again and left. After that, of course, they didn't get their job. And because they believed they'd get a job easily, all the other companies had already finished recruiting by the time they contacted them. And they ended up graduating before they could find a job. While everyone was trying hard to find a job, they were trying to use connections, and their story about breaking the promise was spread among the students, so everyone gave them cold looks. And no one dared to talk to them until they graduated. Bishy and her friends who couldn't find a job still kept on pestering me. Hey, invite that staff again. I promise we'd show up next time, please, or else we'll be in a lot of trouble. She said, but she had to be kidding. I firmly said no, and she started following me around like before, and she threatened me that she'll pester me until I say yes. But she was unable to endure the cold looks people gave her, and she stopped shortly after that. The professor of the university also heard from her that she'll be working at one of my father's companies, but then they ended up ruining their own careers, so the professor also thought it was their own fault, and probably because he thought it was no use to help a student like her, he refused to offer them any help. Also, Bishy and her friends had been bragging to her parents that they found a job, but because they lost the opportunity due to their own behavior, their parents got really mad. Looks like they were living in an apartment near the university under the name of their parents, but their parents terminated the contract, and it seemed like they stopped supporting them financially as well. The three of them kept on looking for a job, but they could only find part-time jobs, and it seemed like each of them started working at cafes and convenience stores. But because they barely had enough money to cover all their living expenses, I heard they live in a tiny one-room apartment. They've been asking their peers who found a job if they can possibly find a job there, and ask if they could hire them. But because everyone knew how they broke their promise in the past, there was no one who offered them help. First of all, they were also new employees, so if they ever dared to help such a problematic person like her, the company would ask them to take responsibility. For my case, because the company was related to my dad's company, it wasn't a big deal. But that doesn't mean what they did wasn't rude. If they had come to the appointment, they could have had the chance to get hired. But it's her fault for losing the opportunity. So no matter how many hardships await for her, I have no sympathy for her.
I'm Toby, living with my wife Rebecca. We're going back to my parents' house this holiday season. My mom, who lost her husband 4 years ago and has been living alone since, is happy to have us visit her. Mom and Rebecca get along well, too, and I'm on my way now along with Rebecca. When we got there, we ran into Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, Jason, in front of the house. 3 of us went to the same local school from 1st to 12th grade. Our houses were close and we all knew each other. We might as well call ourselves childhood friends. It's just that Jason was an ass, so I kept my distance from him. Even though he was Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, they went out only a few days in high school. Jason aggressively asked her out while he was seeing somebody else at the same time. Rebecca dumped him soon after she found out about it. Jason was spontaneous, aggressive, yet clever and a liar. Rebecca and I got into trouble a few times because of him. Becca, you're more beautiful than ever. And Toby, I heard you're a big shot now, working in a big company in the big city. You two look happy and it's almost contagious. Thanks, we gotta go. Take care. I tried to cut the conversation short on purpose, and he asked, "How long are you staying?" Maybe the first week in January. After Dad's passed, Mom has been alone, so... Yeah, that's right. Your dad kicked the bucket a few years back. It wasn't the first time we heard his rudeness. We ignored it and left. For the next few days, we spent time together, relaxed. Mom seemed happy. That night, while we were watching TV, the phone rang.
Who could it be at this hour?
It was an unusual hour for someone to call us. When Mom answered, the voice from the phone was so loud that even I could hear it. Mom got scared, obviously. I picked the phone from Mom to find out what it was all about. I said my name, but the man on the other end kept shouting, and it was hard to understand what he was saying, but it didn't sound like it had anything to do with us. I asked the details calmly, but the man just couldn't talk calmly. He kept cursing and yelling for about 10 minutes. All I could gather was that he was a chef at a high-end sushi restaurant in the area. I asked him again, "I'm sorry, but I really don't understand what you're talking about. Can you explain to me in detail?" "I'm talking about the phone call earlier. You rented the entire house and made a reservation for 30. I can't go. I'm canceling it. Are you kidding? It doesn't work that way. Same-day cancellation costs you. What were you thinking? Freshness is the most important thing in sushi. The cancellation fee is 100%. We didn't make a reservation. Are you going to pretend you didn't book a reservation? It was $300 per person, so it'll cost you $10,000 plus labor, etc. They'll all go to waste. Don't you understand? After he kept on and on some more, I made myself clear again. I don't have a clue about what you're talking about. Are you sure about the name of the person and phone number under the reservation? Can you double check? Shut up! I knew him rather well. When my dad was alive, we went to his restaurant for special occasions once every few years because Dad loved sushi. The chef wouldn't lie like this. I was happy to hear you guys are coming in a while, but what's wrong with your dad? What? My dad? Yeah, your dad who made a reservation for 30 people and canceled at the last minute. I froze. Canceled at the last minute? Is he alive? He can't be. My father passed away 4 years ago. There was dead silence after I said this. Didn't he check the ID or credit card number? But we were local customers and had been there a few times, so maybe he didn't. The man who pretended to be my dad was wearing a mask on him for having a cold. He probably couldn't recognize the voice he was talking to. It's outrageous if it was a prank. Clever, too. There was only one person who came to mind. I asked the chef for the caller's number and checked it myself. It's Jason. He's lived here all his life. He lives nearby and knows our family situation and our phone number. He's an ex-boyfriend of my wife. We ran into him last week, and he asked me how long we were staying here. I told Chef I'd check with him and hung up the phone. Then I called Jason. I knew his number since we were in the same class. Hello? It's me, Toby. Hey, what's up? He sounded so innocent, but I know that he's capable of lying with a straight face. What did you do to me? What? What are you talking about? I know you made a reservation at the sushi place under my name, and you used my dad's name to book a reservation for 30 and canceled at the last minute. What were you thinking? Huh? Did the old man really prepare for 30 people? That's hilarious! By the way, is that why you're calling me? I'm too busy for this, so I'm gonna go. What? I could see him grinning. What did you want? It's just a prank. You two looked happy and that pissed me off. So it's just like a good old prank from school days. Don't get so serious. You're annoying. Why didn't you cancel it immediately? I guess I could, but I was just busy with holiday events and all. But I called eventually. How nice of me, huh? You are outrageous. Huh? Didn't the guy tell you? I called and told him that I couldn't make it. That's better than a no-show, right? That's not good enough. They bought the ingredients and prepared them using staff, and you rented the entire restaurant, and the same-day cancellation fee costs 100% in any restaurant. He said the deluxe course for 30 totals $10,000. Huh? Cancellation fee? I can't. No way. But it was under your dad's name, so why don't you pay for it? How come we pay for it? Besides, I haven't eaten one piece of sushi, and why am I paying $10,000? You have no common sense, idiot. I sensed he was going to hang up. You'll regret it if you don't pay for it now. Oh, is that a threat? You sound like a scam call. You annoy me. And he hung up. I was determined to make him pay for this. I called him again, but he blocked me. If I use another phone, I didn't think it was going anywhere. I explained this to Mom and Rebecca, and both were furious, naturally. Then I called back to the chef, and he asked me to come down to the restaurant. When I got there, he apologized to me. I was upset and angry, so I said terrible things to you. I'm sorry. Take this as an apology, and please eat this sushi. That's nice, but I couldn't eat for 30. With his permission, I called up my old friends in town. Jason went too far. We're not kids anymore, and this was far worse than just a prank. Things cost in real life. I'll make him pay for this. Everybody agreed with me. His indiscreet action spread fast among old schoolmates. After the holidays, Jason got fired from his job. He seemed to be branded as untrustworthy. Also, more than half of his old friends blocked his contact. His family cut ties. After that, he came to apologize to the chef and me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. My family and friends won't help me anymore. You caused this all by yourself. Whether your apologies are accepted or not will be decided after you pay the cancellation fee. Jason started working part-time to pay for it. It'll take him a while to come back to dine here.
I'm Prue, 24 years old. I got engaged recently and quit my job. I lived with my family all my life, but finally I can live away from them. It's indescribable for me how happy I felt. Because my family was unusual, to say the least. I didn't like my parents and my sister, who was 2 years younger than me, since as long as I can remember. My parents went to the casino every night and didn't come home until closing time. They didn't have the slightest interest in their children, and they neglected us. They didn't buy the school necessities for me or didn't make lunch on field trips. They weren't home much anyway, and I had to spend a lot of time with my sister. Jessie, who had a wicked personality and the main source of my stress. She's been self-conscious and overconfident, especially about her appearance. She called me ugly and despised me, and I couldn't bring myself to love her. When she was in the 5th grade, she started stealing my stuff and money. If I confronted her, "You stole it, didn't you?" And her response was, "I'm pretty and I'm allowed to do whatever I want." She didn't know the difference between good and bad at all. When she was in high school, she stole my boyfriend too. I was dating Samuel when I started college, and one day we ran into Jessie. She asked me a lot about him, and I only had bad feelings about it. The nightmare became a reality soon after. She checked my phone and found out Samuel's contact while I was sleeping. She seduced him with her sex appeal and slept with him. I knew her nature all along, but when this happened, I was infuriated and I thought I was going insane, no matter what I said to her. "It's only natural that happened because I'm simply prettier than you." She didn't apologize to me nor had any remorse. After that, I couldn't trust men and didn't go out with anybody for a long time. Until recently, I met Hudson, my fiancé. He went to the same college as me, very smart, and wasn't the type to be fooled by a loose woman like Jessie. But I did my best to hide him from her just to be safe. After 2 years of dating, he proposed to me, and I was getting ready to move out secretly. One day, Jessie came into my room suddenly. "Are you moving out?" I was startled for a moment, but I didn't think I could hide it completely and said yes to her. "You're planning to move out and get married, right? But you don't need to because I took your fiancé away." "What?" "I stole your fiancé and will become the wife of a company president. Isn't that the best? I heard you quit your job. I'm sorry, but you're just unemployed now." She laughed. "Mason is mine now. Unemployed and ugly can get lost." As soon as I heard the name, I understood what was going on immediately. Mason was my ex-fiancé, arranged by my parents without telling me. He was an heir to a company, but the engagement was off a long time ago. I didn't want to go out with him, nor have I ever met with him alone. So she could have him if she wanted. The reason why the engagement was off was on Mason's side, although Jessie didn't seem to know that. I didn't tell her anything and was going to wait and see what would happen. I didn't tell my parents anything and just left the house to start living with Hudson. A month later, when I went to my parents' house to get something, Jessie said to me, "Oh, you're finally out of your room. I was wondering how much longer you'd be locked up in your room." She didn't realize I moved out. So I said, "I moved out. We're not going to see each other again." "I thought you've been in your room all this time. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, bye, ugly." What happened with Mason, by the way? What? Do you miss him? Gross. We're getting married next month. You're jealous, aren't you? Wow, my condolences. The loser's howling. And she laughed. I ignored her and left the house, and I was very happy for her upcoming wedding. I didn't want to get involved with the trouble, so I blocked my parents and Jessie. A month later, Hudson and I got married and had a wedding. I already told his parents about my parents, and when I told them I didn't intend to invite my parents to the wedding, they said, "You had a hard time," and were sympathetic. After the reception, the guests were leaving and we were going to the after party with friends. I saw Jessie outside the venue. She saw me too and came to me. "Hey, what kind of rich man is your husband? I saw some rich guy I saw on TV coming out of here." She seemed anxious. Hudson's father is the CEO of a mobile phone company, and Hudson is an executive there. That's why there were some affluent people at the reception. I told Jessie about that briefly and asked her, "What brought you here? How did you know about this?" She said she asked my old friend and found out. "Wasn't your fiancé Mason? You know he divorced 3 times and had children, didn't you?" I told her the truth, that I knew and didn't tell her. She was mad at me and said, "I'm going to divorce him and steal your husband." So I told her a piece of information. Mason's parents and our parents knew each other, and his parents offered my parents $100,000 if I married Mason. That's why they were eager to get me married to Mason. But I was seeing Hudson then. I told him about it, and he checked on Mason to find out that he had divorced 3 times and is responsible for the child support for $10,000 a month. I told my parents about it, but Jesse didn't know anything and tried to steal Mason from me. So my parents liked the direction it was going and didn't tell her anything to let it happen. I told this to Jesse and said, "They already got the money, so you can't divorce now." No way, he cheated on me 3 times already. I couldn't help but laugh a little. I made it clear that I was done with them and left there. After that, Jesse repeated the argument with Mason every time he cheated on her. Mason said,
"If you want to divorce, give the money back."
And she couldn't divorce and wasted her life. It was Mason's parents' idea of buying a bride for Mason so that she couldn't divorce him easily after she found out about Mason's past. Jesse was used in the plan. My parents used up the money quickly on gambling. Not only that, they borrowed more to spend on gambling. After they got their hands on a large sum of money, they spent large on gambling, and they were buried in debt. They lost their house and turned to a loan shark and ran around. I, on the other hand, started my married life in a penthouse apartment of a high-rise. My parents-in-law, who know how I grew up, said, "You can count on us as your real parents." It feels like I have a family for the first time in my life. I don't want anything to do with my real family, but I want to live with Hudson and his family. If I have a child, I want to build a family like his. When I was in high school, I was being bullied. So it was like a nightmare while I was in high school. But once I graduated and went to university, I was surrounded by new people and everything changed. I got a job after graduating from college, and after working hard for a few years, one of my friends said that her friend wanted her to introduce him to me. So she asked me out to a meal. That's how I met my husband. My husband fell in love with me at first sight when he visited my company for a meeting, and using his connections, he searched which department I worked for, what my name was on, and so on. Through that, he ended up getting in touch with my friend and colleague from the same department, and he asked us out to a meal. He said he wanted to be my boyfriend with plans of getting married. I couldn't believe such a nice gentleman would be attracted to me, who had been bullied during high school, so I thought this might be a prank at first. But his eyes were very serious, so I accepted his confession. I continued my job for a year after my marriage, but I soon became a housewife after he requested me to do so. Although I quit my job, I was still keeping in touch with my friend. I had more time to myself, so after I finished with housework, I sometimes visited my parents-in-law, who adored me like their real daughter. One day, when I was living a fulfilling life, my sister asked me if I wanted to go shopping for presents because Mother's Day was coming up. I happily said yes, and that day, I bought presents for both my mom and mother-in-law, and we decided to go eat lunch somewhere together. As we enjoyed our meal at a family restaurant, we updated each other about how life was going. My sister and I had a pretty big age gap, so she was still in high school. She still hadn't decided what to do in the future, and she told me that she was planning to go to a university nearby because the tuition was relatively cheap. So when I said I'd help her pay for her tuition and I wanted her to go to the university she really wanted to go to, she replied happily, saying she'll try her best. When I was about to leave the restaurant, my mother-in-law texted me and said that she wanted to invite everyone to a new sushi restaurant that was built nearby. So she called asking me if I can make a reservation for her. Fortunately, the sushi restaurant wasn't too far from the family restaurant we were at, so I visited the sushi restaurant with my sister. A woman in a kimono came out once I went inside, but I was shocked when I recognized the person. It was Bishi, who had been bullying me in high school for 3 years straight. It looked like she instantly recognized who I was. "Oh, I never thought I'd meet someone from so young ago." She smirked as she approached me and asked why I was here. When I saw her, bad memories from high school made a flashback in my mind, and I wanted to run away right there. But I remembered that my mother-in-law wanted a reservation. "I'm here to make a reservation." When I said that, Bishi replied, Huh? This is not a restaurant for poor people like you. Can you leave already? She said to me. My sister also got to know many years later that I used to be bullied in high school, so it looks like she figured out seeing my interaction with Bishy. She seemed worried. Sis, let's go home. She pulled at my sleeve, but my mother-in-law said she wanted me to make a reservation, so I knew that if I didn't, she'd ask me why. I was too embarrassed to tell her that she said no because she used to bully me in high school, but Bishy had no mercy and kicked us out. My husband is a genius chef. A person like you would never be able to taste it. She laughed and slammed the door closed in our face. My sister got worried and she took me home, but I couldn't tell my mother-in-law that I wasn't able to make a reservation. A few days later, I knew I had to tell her about the reservation, but then I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, wondering who it might be, it turned out to be Bishy who was calling. Hey, what did you do to our restaurant? No one is visiting us anymore. She didn't make any sense. When I told her that I didn't understand what she was talking about, it looks like your mother-in-law declared that she'll never dine at our restaurant anymore, and all our regular customers canceled at once and stopped coming. I was surprised when I heard that. I was struggling to figure out how to tell my mother-in-law about the reservation, so I had no idea how things turned out this way. I decided to visit my in-laws right away to ask what was going on. What I found out was that my sister not only saw me getting insulted in front of her, but also knew that I was struggling to figure out a way to tell my mother-in-law. So she visited my in-laws on her own and told them what was going on and asked them not to get mad at me. When my mother-in-law heard about the story, she firmly said that there was no way she'd get mad at me, and she kindly persuaded her to go home. She was mad that Bishy not only bullied me during high school, but also refused to let me dine at her restaurant despite being an adult already, so it looks like she declared to all her neighbors that she'll never dine there again. Actually, both my mother and father-in-law owned a company, and they were both CEOs. My husband helped his father's company, and his sister helped his mother's company, so they knew many people, and most of them were celebrities. Those celebrities heard about what my mother-in-law said, and they no longer wanted to eat sushi at a restaurant like hers, canceling all their reservations, so everyone basically stopped visiting. My mother-in-law turned to me. I reminded you of your trauma because I asked you to do me a favor. I'm very sorry. I knew that you liked sushi, so I thought you'd be happy if I made a reservation there. I'll take you to an even better restaurant next time. She said to me, and it made me cry to see her treat me so kindly even after getting to know about my past. She also praised my sister for being a considerate, kind, wise sister. She told me that she'd love it if I can invite her to our next meal. After that, my husband also found out about what happened, and my husband got furious as well, so the reputation of Bishy's restaurant got even worse. She had no other way of keeping her business going, so she somehow got my contacts from her high school friends. I didn't know you were married to a celebrity. Please, talk to everyone and do something about my bad reputation, she said to me, but I wasn't kind enough to do that for her after she was so mean to me for 3 years in high school. In the end, her sushi restaurant closed within just a month. Her restaurant targeted celebrities, so it was natural that everyone stopped coming after my parents-in-law, husband, and sister-in-law spread the rumor. As a result, because she had been renting a place for her shop in an expensive area, she ended up being in a lot of debt. Her husband got furious after they had to close down because of what she did, and not only did he divorce her, but he even made her pay for compensation. She lost her husband, her job, and ended up in a lot of debt, so she called me several times asking for my help, but I blocked all of her contacts. Through this incident, my in-laws and husband found out about my past, and I was worried how they might think of me. And I was so scared, but I was so glad that they were all kind people. I also thanked my sister for her help, and when I invited her to dine with us at a different sushi restaurant, she happily followed us. My mother-in-law loved my sister, and she said she'd love it if she can join us again for a meal. My family wasn't very wealthy, so when I talked to my husband about my sister's university tuition and told him that I wanted to pay for her tuition if she didn't have enough, not only did my husband, but my sister-in-law as well as my parents-in-law volunteered to support her financially, so my sister was pretty shocked. Since then, Bishy ended up in a lot of debt, and I heard she can no longer make a living, but I think she deserves it. For my sister who protected me then, I want to support her as much as I can in the future.
Back when I was in 5th grade and when my family moved to another city, I also moved schools. The teacher was nice, I had friends in class, and I was having a pretty fun school life. I had an older sister and brother who had a big age gap with me, and probably because of the age gap, they adored and spoiled me. But as an elementary schooler, I still had problems. The problem was Basti. Basti was one of my classmates, but he was one of the problematic guys who was like the gang leader of the boys in class. Apparently, I was his target, and he kept on annoying me. He usually teased me about my mom, so I was especially irritated. Hey, Tom, your mom is actually a grandma, right? I heard she's already 48. My mom gave birth to me young, so she's still 32. Actually, my mom gave birth to me in her late 30s, so it was a late life pregnancy. But since he got to know about it, he's been teasing me. He laughed at me saying my mom was actually my grandma. It looked like he was proud of his mom giving birth to him at an early age. And not only just me, but he asked our classmates about our mom's age and bragged about it all the time. Among my classmates, my mom was the oldest, so I bet it was hilarious for Basti. So I would fight back when he teased me, saying, "Don't badmouth my mom," and defend her. But no matter how mad you get, there's no way she's gonna get younger, you stupid. He bullied me so much, but I loved everyone in my family, and I've never felt embarrassed about my mom who loved me and adored me every day. But knowing she might be hurt if I tell her, I couldn't bring myself to tell them that I was being picked on. One day at school, the teacher gave out handouts about our open school events where our parents were invited. When Basti saw that, his eyes lit up as if he found a good chance to pick on me again. And he approached me as he smirked. "Hey, your mom is coming to the open school too, right?" he said. I really wanted my mom to come, of course, but I knew that Basti would say mean things to my mom if she comes. I didn't want that, so I couldn't say anything back to Basti. After that, I went home with the handout crumpled inside my school bag, but I never gave it to my mom. The day of the open school approached more and more, and every morning when I went to school, "I'm so excited for the open school. I want to see your mom so bad." Basti laughed at me. But I didn't give my mom the handout, so she wouldn't be coming. If she didn't come to the open school, I knew he would still tease me about it, but I thought that was still better than my mom feeling hurt. On the day, Basti looked excited from the morning. "Hey, when is your grandma coming?" "Oh, my mom, who's way younger than your grandma, is coming too, so I'll introduce her to you," he said to me, but I kept on ignoring him. Our class started, and after taking our usual lesson for a while, the class suddenly started bustling.
Huh? Whose mom is that? Oh, she's so pretty.
She's even with a beautiful sister and handsome brother. When I turned back to see who they were talking about, I saw my mom, brother, and sister. When I made eye contact with my mom, she waved lightly as if to encourage me. I was panicking because I had no idea why my mom was here. Now that she waved at me, everyone found out that she was my mom, and from all directions in the classroom, I heard my classmates say that my mom was pretty and beautiful. After that, the teacher told the class to quiet down, and we were back to normal, focusing on our class material. During break, with mixed feelings of embarrassment and happiness, I went to where my mom and siblings were. First of all, I haven't told my mom about the open school, so I was wondering how she found out about it. But then it turned out my sister found the handout, which I put in the bin to make sure Mom didn't see it while she was cleaning my room. I was never embarrassed about my mom, but that didn't change the fact that I hid it from her in the end. So when I looked down feeling guilty,
I saw you studying hard. Good job.
I was happy to see my mom smile. Then Basti, with a surprised expression, approached me. You brought someone fake. I know she's not your real mom, he said to me. So I firmly replied saying she was my mom. Then my mom nodded in agreement and Basti's face went bright red. He complained, saying there's no way she looked so beautiful, and she's supposed to be more than 10 years older than my mom. He was yelling all this nonsense, but it's no wonder that Basti felt that way. Actually, my mom owned a boutique, so all the clothes she owned are pretty, and although she's 48, she looks very young. My brother and sister, who also came along for some reason, were twins, and they worked as models for my mom's boutique. Although I don't know much about fashion, I knew that they were always fashionable and had great taste. I saw a woman standing next to Basti who was biting her lips in anger, but she was in worn-out training gear, and she seemed like she had no makeup on with blonde dyed hair that was a mess. I had a guess. Are you Basti's mom? So when I asked him, Basti yelled, "No!" as he turned bright red from embarrassment. He ran out, so his mom also followed him with quick steps after glancing at my mom. This is what I heard later, but Basti's mom used to be part of a gang, and she did give birth to Basti early on in life, but because she didn't go to school properly, she couldn't get a stable job. So it turns out they were making a living on her husband's income with some money she got from her part-time job. It looks like she was proud of giving birth to him at a young age, so she's been telling Basti that story often. She dresses the same as she used to in the past, so she felt like she would look intimidating with blonde hair, so that's why she came to school looking that way. But she found my family there, and because she looked so different from my mom, it seemed like she ran away feeling embarrassed. Basti came back to the classroom at the end of the day, but he never even dared to come near me. On the other hand, girls approached me saying my brother was handsome and my mom was cool with great taste in fashion, so I was really happy. After I went home that day, I honestly told my siblings and mom about why I threw the handout in the bin, saying I was afraid that my mom might feel hurt. Then my mom firmly said that there was no way she'd feel hurt. When she was younger, she was busy with taking care of her kids after giving birth to the twins, while she worked hard to make her business bigger at the same time. But once things calmed down, she wanted to raise another child and spent more time on childcare. So she asked my dad, and she gave birth to me. But my mom thanked me for trying to protect her. Since then, even those in class who worshipped Basti started distancing themselves from him, and he quickly got isolated in class. For elementary schoolers, it sounded cool to have a gang member as your mom, so some of the boys admired him, but he completely messed up on open school day, so the boys no longer looked at him in admiration. Now, I'm all grown up, and I live a happy life with my energetic family, including my wonderful wife and kids. I still remember what happened that day because it felt so refreshing for me. I hope my kids can be proud of me like I felt towards my family when they start elementary school soon.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.